Welcome to this episode of the Practice X Factor, and wow, do we have a fantastic guest on today. So we appreciate everybody tuning in, and we have the man, the legend, Dr. Howard Farran. So Howard, thanks for being on today.
Oh man, Tyler, it's an awesome to be on your show. How's everything up in Utah?
It's going great. We're fortunate. We bounced back. May and June were our busiest months ever, as it's been with some of the other practices I've heard, and some of our colleagues didn't have that luxury, but things are going well. We just moved into a new building and getting all settled in. So I've been really excited and anticipating having you on, because man, I followed you I think I joined Dental Town when I was in dental school, and I graduated in 2010. It's maybe like 2008, somewhere around there. And I've just loved your candor and your articles, and you're a straight shooter, and we love having people like that on, because I feel like today that's what people really need is, if something's going to work or it's not going to work, we got to be candid about it, whether it's for patient care or practice management or those kind of things. So I doubt many people listening wouldn't know who Howard Farran is, but he not only is he a practicing dentist in Arizona, but he also started and runs Dental Town, which is just an incredible magazine, and his online forum and all kinds of videos and podcasts and CE courses. And so if you haven't checked it out, you're missing out, because all the latest and greatest is out there. So did I miss anything, Howard?
No, I mean, God, I've been a dentist 32 years, and I feel like I already know you because you've posted about 75 times on Dental Town, and cool. I love your podcast, and it's just an exciting, neat format. I mean, my gosh, 4 years ago, I didn't know what one is.
Right.
And I just think they love it because it's unfiltered. You didn't have to go through editorial. It doesn't have to go through, well, we only have room for 600 words, and you can just tell it like it is. And these dentists are right now probably they're commuting to work or they're on the treadmill, and it's just a cool format. And I can't wait to talk all things dentistry with you.
Yeah, well, I agree. I love the videos and everything too, but sometimes that's distracting in the car or when we go running. Podcast is cool. So, but what I really wanted to pick your brain about and help our listeners, because our listeners are primarily practice owners looking to grow their practice. And man, today there's so much noise and distraction, and there's so many things because we have more procedures to learn than ever. We have more software to manage in our practice, more technology, so many things. So we appreciate you being on and helping us out. But what do you think, if you were to talk to a practice owner today who's maybe just starting out, or maybe they've been in practice for a while, but they're kind of flat and struggling, what would be, one or two of your biggest gold nuggets you would say, hey, here's what would really help you to grow your practice in today's turbulent economic environment and everything else we have to deal with?
Well, first of all, I want to say that, my candor is because I love and respect my homies. I mean, when you see, who's that guy? Wayne, what is it? Who's that pot smoking? Willie Nelson. I want to say, Willie Nelson, why would people listen to him? He admits he smokes pot, he hasn't paid his taxes, he's in trouble with the IRS, and it's because, why would that guy lie? But then the next guy is a lawyer with a three-piece suit and a tie around his neck, or he's a politician, and if a politician talks, they say, he's lying when his lips move. So, so if I say something that sounds like, makes you want to punch me, I'm only telling you the truth because I love and respect my homies. And you asked a very important question, and I'm just going to tell it like it is. The bottom line is, when you see these dentists straight out of school, and they were not born in the United States, they come from, Africa, Vietnam, Brazil, whatever, they'll come out of UP, and they'll all come out $400,000 in debt. And if they were born in America, those entitled little brats will go buy a dental office, and they'll buy a home, and they'll buy a $35,000 car, and they come out of UP about $400,000 in debt. But after they get a home around that place, are you kidding me? The home's another $1 million, and then they buy cars and all this stuff like that. But if they graduate and they're from they were born and raised in Vietnam, they'll go buy a dental office. and they'll live in the damn office. They won't even have a home or a car. They'll have a baby in the back room in the mother's I mean, I've seen it. I've seen it so many times. And when they're born in America, they'll go into San Fran and say, well, the dentist to population ratio is only 1 to 1,000. I'm like, yeah, Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5. But what's the dentist population at 6 p.m. and all day Saturday and Sunday? Like when dentists telling me, well, you know why? You know, some people say that we're not a real doctor. Well, dude, you're not, because if you fell down on the street on Sunday and bust out your front tooth, the ambulances show up. They're real. They'll take you to the emergency room. They're all real. They'll treat you that day. They're real. If you knocked out your front tooth in Phoenix, Arizona, you'd need the tooth fairy riding a unicorn to go find a dental office open on a Sunday. And so what I'm trying to tell you is live below your means and hustle. When you get out of dental school, just because you finish 8 years of school, that doesn't entitle you to a house. And I'm right here in Arizona, where we got 2 dental schools on each side of Phoenix. Out west in Glendale is Midwestern, and on the east side of town in Mesa is HE Still. And those kids will come out $400,000 student loans. I know their dad, and I'll say, you know what you need to do? You need to go home, move in with your dad, live for free, and you found this job, and it's Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4. Now I want you to go find another job on Friday and Saturday, and if you just hustle hard, work like no man has, and live below your means, you're going to be fine. But they're all crying about their $400,000 student loans. So then I ran into them a year later, and they just bought a $400,000 house in East Mesa, and they work 3-day weekends. And you know, Friday you're relaxing, Saturday you start to get bored, and by Sunday you go to Home Depot and start a $5,000 kitchen remodeling project. and you meet up with that son of a gun. 25 years later, they're still not earning a nickel on every dollar from their savings account. Mm-hmm. They're still paying a nickel a dollar for the entitlement to use other people's money now, today. And I meet them at 50 years old. They still got a 30-year mortgage on their house. They just bought a new car, and I'll say, did you pay cash for that? No, I got on a 5-year loan. And I mean, it's just ridiculous, but it's kind of funny how all the people that immigrate to this country on their feet from other continents, they're the ones that are hustling. I mean, it's really easy. In fact, when I go down to Mexico, the first thing I always think every time I go down to Mexico is, you know where the 10 million hardest working Mexicans are? They're back up north of the border. It takes a lot of hustle to do that. And so, you know, I watch these kids come out of dental school and get $85,000 Beamers, and they're telling me about how much student loans they have. So the advice is always the same. You know, if you treat other people like you want to be treated, you're going to be just fine. If you live below your means, you're going to be just fine. In fact, I mean, to me, it's just so easy to do the right thing, and you just got to do the right thing. In fact, let me, I'll tell you, I answered this kid's email the other day. He sent me some whining thing, and I got to tell you what how I answered it. But oh yeah, here it is right here. He was right. He telling me that he's a D4. And he says, Howard, you know, I'm a D4, and he's panicking. And this is why I emailed him back. To all the D4s panicking in dental school, just chill. You're all going to be just fine. I'd rather be living during a war with a virus any day than during a war with my fellow humans. Life is a marathon, not a sprint. 33 years ago, I graduated on May 11, 1987. It took 133 days to find a place to build out a dental office and open. Just 28 days before the day so terrible it will forever be known as Black Monday, when on October 1987, the stock market collapsed 22.6%, the biggest one-day percentage loss in history. My 3 new employees, assistant, hygienist, and receptionist, all panicked and said, what are we going to do? And I laughed and said, are you kidding me? People will still have teeth and need a dentist 1,000,000 years from now. So don't worry, you're all going to be fine. Just graduate from dental kindergarten school, and I promise someday you will look back at all these worries, laugh, and realize there are some very great days. If you have fun, be positive, live below your means, graduate. Just find a job if you prefer taking orders, and open up your own dental office if you prefer giving orders. And if you and find a few good mentors, and if you treat your patients like you want to be treated, you're going to be fine. And as far as those taking orders, you know how I've lived through so many cycles of people were being fat shamed, or there's always a lot of weird shaming. And right now there's a lot of shaming on kids who go work at a DSO, but they're shy and they're humble and they're introverts and they don't want to be an office manager. Well, then don't be an office manager. I don't care if Howard or Ryan or Tyler says you should do this or that. Don't live someone else's life. Be your own life. But do remember, a dental specialist on average nets $320, where a general practice $197. So you'll make $100 more if you're a specialized. So go specialized. 1900, there were no specialties. 2000, dentistry had 9. Now it's only 2020, and dentistry's up to 12. Go specialize. That's the trend line. But if you do own your own practice, you're going to make $244, and if you're an employee, it's $147. So giving orders is stressful, but you'll make another $100,000 extra. And if the thought of trying to lead the hygienist and assistant and receptionist and an upset patient is just going to give you an ulcer, then just take a $100,000 cut and go work for $147. Oral surgeons are making $448, periodontist $330, endodontist $307, pediatric dentist $304, and then that's the point I want to make is pediatric dentist. Right when you drop below that, you're out of the 300s. Orthodontics $289, prosthodontics $219, and that's the other thing that you got to realize, that when you get out of school, blood and guts is worth a hell of a lot more than bleaching, bonding, soft and pretty. I mean, the practices that are just absolutely crushing it, and they're always making money. They always can get you out of pain. I mean, you go in there and you're in pain, they can extract the tooth, or they can do a root canal. And if you and there's 4,000 endodontists, so that tells you exactly how many molars the general dentists are referring. These guys, they work 5 days a week, they work 50 weeks a year, they're doing about 6.5, 7 molars a day. And you have to sell bleaching, bonding, veneers, but when some guy's in pain, he's begging you to pull the tooth and do the root canal. Mm-hmm. So I would just get out of school, live below your means, and work hard and hustle. And it's not that hard. And if you're a doctor in the richest country in the world and you can take home $250,000 a year, well, I know you're not working hard and hustling. Hell, you're a doctor in the richest country in the world. So, you can't sit on the couch and have it handed to you. You're going to have to get out there and hustle. And, a new practice must do 7 root canals a month, or the big DSOs like Heartland will shut the damn dental office down. And then you tell me, I don't like to do molar root canals. Dude, Sapien is a 200,000-year-old animal in its present form, and we've lived through 5 ice ages? I mean, on Earth, and the last one, Neanderthal lived through. So our ancestors had to live through an ice age, trapped in a cave, living off woolly mammoth dung. And now you're like, I don't want to do a molar root canal. Oh, but you want to whine about $400,000 in student loans. Go lock yourself in a cave and eat woolly mammoth dung until you're ready to come out and put on your big girl pants and do a molar root canal. And if you're open the hours, I mean, my gosh, there's 168 hours in a week, and the average dentist is open 32 hours a week. That's 19% of the week. Are you kidding me? You're off the 80-20 rule, the Pareto effect. I mean, my gosh. So who's crushing it? Dentists who work hard. They hustle. They live below their means. And if they finally do save up $1, are they going to go spend it on consumption for a house, a car, a boat, or a jet ski? Or are they going to go buy for more online CE, because, you can take it online for, the price of an Uber cab. You don't need to fly across the United States to go take an online CE course. You don't even want to take the course. You just want to get in a jet, fly to Scottsdale, stay in a resort. Well, why ruin it why ruin that vacation with a damn dental seminar? Just go fly there, go to a resort and have a vacation. But just get out there, work hard and hustle, and you're going to be fine.
Well, I think it's, great advice. And, when I talk to dentists, I say, hey, you have to really look at it as, you offer dentistry to get a patient, you don't do it the other way around, because we see it as like, hey, we want to just like get people and do all this dentistry on it. But if you look at it as, hey, I offer getting people out of pain so that I can get someone and build a relationship, long-term relationship with this person, that's really an advantage in dentistry that we have over some other specialties and other careers. Is, man, you get I'm sure you have these patients and their families, and you watch them grow up, and then their friends come in, and if you treat them well, and if you're there for them, to fix their root canal or broken tooth, then it really goes a long way. And you talked about something years ago. I remember you saying, and you were talking about, hey, a lot of dentists will get out of school and they'll buy a 4,000 or 5,000, 6,000 square foot house, but then they only want to buy a 900 square foot practice and expect it to produce enough to fund that big, huge house. And really, when you get out of school, you got to flip it the other way around. And like I would rather be working in my practice a lot than I would playing golf, because, man, I just love being here and figuring out new ways to do things and better ways to get patients and reach people and train team. But it takes a lot of work. And if you don't have that gusto, then you're absolutely right. You got to work for someone else. But what do you think is the kind of future? I mean, sure, COVID hit and everybody kind of thought the world was over and we were never going to meet in person again. But now, all these people are hating Zoom meetings, and even the CEO of Zoom said, hey, you probably actually 2 days a week, people should really probably be in the office anyway, just for sanity and working with people. But, you're on the forefront of lots of online CE, which is awesome. Like you said, even if you're broke, you can afford a few bucks to take an online course. So what do you see as the future of CE courses? I mean, is it going to go like 80% online, 20% in person compared to where it's at now? What do you think?
Well, I would say, first of all, what you just said, you just totally showed all your cards that you're just you have a great attitude, and your attitude determines your altitude and your aptitude, and my gosh, you're just an optimist, and you got a hard-working, hustling attitude, and that's why you're crushing it, and you will always be a success till the day you die. And as far as your question about the CE, I know so many people that'll drop like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. They'll go down to Panky for a week, and I've gone through 5 weeks of Panky. I did all LVI. I got my FAGD, my MAGD, my diplomat in the International Congress of Implantology, my fellowship in the Institute, but I took all those initials and just rolled it all into 3, BFD. The bottom line is they'll come back from a $4,000 a week, and I'll say, hey, I want to meet you for lunch, and I'll just show up there, and I'll say, hey, there's a napkin, here's a pen. What did you learn in a week down there? Just somewhere, tell me what you learned for a week. And they're like, centric stop, the canine guy. And I'm like, dude, you spent $4,000 in a week. You're not even giving me a 5-minute lecture. I know dentists in Phoenix that came home out of school, and after their kids went to bed, just got on YouTube and put in dental implant surgery and watched an hour of YouTube every night. And within a year, they were doing sinus lifts, placing implants, never been any of it. You can get your didactics on these online courses, and what's great is they're all about, I don't know what they all are, but they're all about $36. You don't have to take notes, because all your notes are still, once you have that course, you have the course. And for hands-on, where it needs to go to is quit getting in an airplane and flying across the country. Like when I went to learn implants, I flew from Phoenix to Pittsburgh, 7 3-day weekends with Carl, and that was great. Carl Mish is just an amazing guy. But the bottom line is I learned as much or more just walking across the street to my periodontist, my endodontist, my oral surgeon, and that's where hands-on is going to go, because it's better. Because number one, everybody's great when they start doing root canals, fillings, and crowns. It takes a baby dentist about 5 years out of school to find out some of their dental work starts failing, and after all, they're not that great. And my gosh, I don't care about what you're going to teach me. I want to know when the shit hits the fan and I screwed up, who's going to bail me out? And it's not going to be that guy who lectured to you on the other side of the country. It's going to be that periodontist and that oral surgeon and that orthodontist. When I started learning orthodontics, I went to Richard Litt. He was the only board-certified orthodontist, and I went to Harry Green. Those are the only two board-certified orthodontists in America. In fact, they're actually the only two orthodontists in America who teach, because the American Association of Orthodontics, I'm not knocking them, but they're as Jimmy Hoffa Teamsters as you can get, and they do not, if an orthodontist starts teaching general dentists how to do ortho, they're no longer friends with the AAO. They'll never speak. They'll never be published. And you don't believe me? Just call Richard Litt in Detroit, who was the chairman of the ortho department, University of California, San Francisco, and then Detroit, Michigan, for a decade at each place. He's completely blackballed. And then I'm in Phoenix with Harry Green. But the bottom line is, I don't even care about that, because I knew if I screw up, I knew exactly who was going to be fixing that case. So, I was working with my orthodontist, and when I took Litt's course, I took that, and I'd take over the models from him, and he'd say, Howie, that's not one you want to start, dude. That's next level. And they would start showing me. And I started doing a lot of ortho cases. I don't know how many I did, but I did a bunch for years. But then one day it just wasn't even fun anymore, and I quit doing that. In fact, I know several it seems like almost every general dentist that learns like ortho, most of them, I'd say 80-20, most of them will do 10 plus cases, and then they'll go back to Crown and Bridge or whatever. But it's the same thing with endo. It was the same thing with implant surgery. And so I think it's going to move to, let's do all the didactic online and pay, $36 for a course. Dentaltown put up 400 courses. They've been viewed over 1 million times. And its biggest competition is probably free YouTube. Because if you just go onto YouTube and put in how do you find an MB2, well, you couldn't watch all those videos during the rest of your entire life, right. And they're all for free. But then you take the biggest stud. I mean, we got to end it on something. It's Brad Gettleman, who wrote Chapter 8 to Pathways to the Pulp by Stephen Cohen, which is the #1 selling endo book of all time. And he has an open door policy. He's like, anytime I ask him a question, he just said, well, whenever you got time off, whenever you got a half day off, whatever, just come over and pull up a chair and ask me these questions, and I'll show you while I'm doing a root canal. And that's what Sapien needs. They need relationships. They need trust. They need validation. And there's a lot of dentists in small towns that feel horrible because, like, this one patient got upset, went to the dentist across the street, and that was the one filling he messed up or had an open crown. So then the rest of his life, he thinks that guy thinks he's a hack and he's low quality and all that. I'm like, dude, I mean, when I got to town, let me tell you the difference between people hustling on. When I got to town, I already knew from like my first 100 patients, I'll say, well, why did you take, what made you take Advil? I mean, do you not like Tylenol or aspirin? Well, I went to the pharmacist and I told him I had a toothache and I asked him what I should take. Should I take Bufferin or Excedrin? And he told me, and I was going to buy Ambisol, but he told me, no, just take this. And I thought, oh my God, I've only seen 100 patients and 15 or 20 of them I've already talked to a pharmacist. So I immediately go to the pharmacist. His name was Brad. His wife was from France. Invite him over to the house. In fact, here's something pretty silly. Before the pandemic, so this is 2020, the pandemic came out in March. So last year, the year before, okay? So let's go back to 2019, or let's just go back to 2018 for a full year so I don't have to think about when the pandemic was. But in that 1 year, every single chiropractor in Ahwatukee had dinner, came to my house. Every single naturopath, every single, I invite them all. I mean, I'm always, now the physicians, they don't seem to ever come because they're just so damn busy. But when you call a chiropractor or naturopath, I mean, they're so beat up in society that they couldn't even believe that Dr. Farran wanted to invite him over to his house and treat him like a real doctor. And there was this one girl that's into pelvic health, and she's over at the house, and I'm a dentist. I'm a boy. I never knew that if you have 5 kids that your pelvic is destroyed and how they do pelvic health, and it's all informative or whatever. But I'll tell you this. When that Walgreens pharmacist has had dinner at my house several times a decade for the last 3 decades, and someone comes up and says, hey, I got a toothache. Do you think I should take Ambisol? Dude, I've been doing teledentistry since I got my iPhone a decade ago. They just pull out the phone, FaceTime me, and I'll pull it out, and Brad would say, hey, Howard, you got a minute? And then he'd hand the phone, and this guy would say, oh, my tooth's killing me. I'd say, open up your mouth. And I look back, I say, yeah, no, a little closer. Yeah, that's your wisdom tooth. And blah, blah, blah. There's teledentistry. He comes over, and if you're going to pull one, might as well pull all four. But it's just those relationships. Now think of that, the fact that 100% of all the chiropractors in Ahwatukee were inside my house with at least 1, 2, or 3, or 4 of my boys present or whatever. And someone asked them, who do you recommend as a dentist? Do you think my name might make the list of the top 3?
No question. Yeah.
I mean, so then that's hustle. And then I'll go into a dentist and I'll say, okay, there's 8 dentists in this medical dental building. When's the last time you had lunch with any of them? They say, I've never had lunch with any of them. Okay, dude, you're not competing with the dentist. You're competing with big screen TVs and cruises and flagships. And let me tell you, young kids, something is that the savings rate has always blown my mind, because most Americans spend over 100% of what they make because they add housing debt, credit card debt, they just live below their means. We have the highest savings rate after this pandemic. You have to go back to 1933 to find the savings rate this high, because I stopped going to restaurants. I mean, I'm a 58-year-old fat guy. I mean, I don't want to, and a boy, they know boys have more mortality than girls because the virus is going in the android receptor. I could lose 25 pounds easily. So, the obesity thing, and I'm old. Hell, my 4 boys turned into 6 grandkids. I'm not eating at bars. I'm not eating. I'm not going out. So they're sitting on a ton of cash. And then when they call up and they say, well, I just don't want to come in because I'm afraid of the corona, then we just say, well, hey, Megan, you need a root canal, build-up, and crown, and 3 fillings, and your total treatment plan is X amount of dollars, and if you give me a credit card and pay for that right now, I will book you an appointment where you, the doctor, and the assistant will be the only 3 in the building. We can do it after hours. We can do it Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You tell me when you want to come in here, and you're the only person. And we had one lady say, well, that stuff lives on the counter for a day. And we say, okay, we close Friday at noon. Let's let it, how about you come in Saturday at noon? And she said, really? It'll be just me? And you're like, really? It'll be just you. So, again, it's a relationship. Talk to these people. Why did they get to know? And do you track know? When people, like dentists will call me up and say, Howard, do you think I should take Blue Cross and Blue Shield? I'm like, what would I look like, Dionne Warwick? I mean, how the hell would I know? I want to know, how many times did someone call your office and say, do you take Blue Cross and Blue Shield? They'll say, do you think I should open up on Saturday? How many people have asked you for a Saturday? I mean, business in 3 words is supply and demand. So I need demand information before I go create a supply of something that's not necessary, needed, and lays idle and is just overhead. But my God, if I was in a dental office and 10 people a month were asking me if I was open on Saturday, I would find out how to treat those 10 people on a Saturday. So again, it's all about the right attitude, which you have. I've listened to your show. You have an amazing attitude. You're a hustler. You're a hard worker. And I always tell that story. Whenever I'm on the Indian reservation, people say, well, they gave us the worst territory. I'm like, you mean we're in Salt Lake City? You're a Mormon? I thought you were a Native American Indian on the Navajo Indian reservation. I mean, look what the Mormons started with in Salt Lake City. I mean, that had to be the worst place to stop in the world, and they turned it into Salt Lake. Why? Because they had a great attitude, a great work ethic, and that's what you got to do. And so your first decision out of dental school is go find a job. And you're gonna, in football, you need to know your pass, your catch, your block, and your tackle. So you're gonna come out of dental school, and with the pandemic, you've only done 5 fillings and 1 root canal and a typing on. So go work for somebody. Go work for whoever has the most patients, the biggest volume. And look what I heard the other day. Some dentist called me up and said he can't find a job. The true story. This was this weekend. I said, you can't find one job in Phoenix? Oh, well, my God, there's this Medicaid clinic on the south side of town, treats a bunch of poor people, and they're only going to pay me 20%, but their fee schedule is Medicaid. So I'm like, so So let me get this right. You just got out of school, and you'd rather be home unemployed than working and getting experience doing fillings and crowns and root canals on poor people on Medicaid so that they get their teeth treated, you get some volume, you get some experience, you meet people, you get mentors. Really? I mean, that's just messed up. I don't think, if that was your only option, would you have just stayed home and cried that you couldn't find a job, Tyler? Or
No
would
way.
you have taken the Medicaid job on the south side of town with the poor folk?
Yeah, it sounds like a first world problem to me. It's like, I mean, there's a lot more. You like you said, you got to do what you got to do, and I think that brings up a good point of what you've talked about with case acceptance. Is like lots of dentists are like, oh, I got to add ortho, I got to do veneers, I got to do sleep apnea, I got to do implants. But then you go, well, what's your case acceptance rate on composite fillings? And the average nationally is something like 40% or something, and you're like, well, why don't you work on doubling that first, because that's zero extra cost. You already know how to do it. It's right under your nose. And when you give that example of the Pankey course, it's like you can't write on a napkin in patient-friendly terms what you learn, because it's one thing to just absorb information, but go, hey, how do I actually apply this and know how to talk to my patients in non-dental words that put most people to sleep? When you can relay that to your patients, man, that just does wonders for your practice. People are happier, patients pay more, they're excited to pay more, they refer people, and they're just golden that way. And that's where you get too caught up in the science of dentistry, and when you get into practice, you realize, hey, real world, maybe you got to go do Medicaid for a while. I mean, I worked in a Medicaid practice for the first 18 months when I bought mine, because the dentist was mostly retired, and I hated it. I hated that practice. I didn't like how people were treated, but it's one of the most valuable experiences I ever had, because it taught me a lot. I got to do a lot of dentistry, and now I look back and go, man, all the things that office was doing that I didn't like or didn't agree with, it's made me, do what I'm doing better, because I have something to compare to. But, if it's a matter of feeding my kids, you're going to do whatever you got to do ethically and honestly, and I think you're exactly right with that. What do you see? I mean, you obviously talk to lots of dentists, and you guys do some cool surveys and stuff in Dental Town, but everybody thinks DSOs are taking over the world, corporate dentistry is taking over, and they're certainly taking their share of the pie. But what do you tell dentists who maybe feel intimidated, or like they can't compete, or they don't have the marketing budget, or they got to go work for the man? How does someone approach that today?
Well, I've always believed, from everything I've read that was statistically well done, that America is just a huge country. It's 331 million people. Now, it's only 4.5% of the world's population, so it's not really. I mean, all the Americas combined are only 1 billion out of 8 billion people. So we're kind of on the backside of the earth. There's not much going on, but you could easily split this country in half, and half are just going to buy on price, and half are going to buy on value-added market differentiation, higher cost. I mean, you see it the winner in every space. Like, go to airlines. Southwest Airlines, lowest cost. They got 27% of seat miles. Walmart's lowest cost. Price Clubs, Sam Wall, all that stuff. So half of America runs out of money before they run out of month, and that's just the damn reality. And I'd rather own Glidewell than who has 5% of the U.S. market than some hoity-toity lab that's $400 a unit. And but my dentist homies, they just don't like that market. I mean, 4 out of 5 dentists want to sell Mercedes-Benz, and I mean, whatever. That's just the way it tends to end up. My gosh, there's so much room for the lower cost market, and the dentists they can't address it. Like they'll take Medicare or PPO. Look how dentists take a PPO. They'll say, okay, because when I got out of school, I'm so old. I got out in '87 that insurance companies, you submitted your own fee schedule, and they just told you what percent they paid. I mean, when I got out of school, you send them. I charge $1,000 for a crown. They say, look, we pay 100% clean exams and X-rays, 80% fillings and root canals, and 50% all the big stuff, crowns, dentures, partials. So I'd tell them that crown's $1,000. They pay half. That was it. Well, after about 10 or 15 years, they started saying, no, we're going to send you the fee. And then I thought to myself, well, why would I? And the average fee reduction for the United States was about 42%. So you're charging $1,000 for a crown, and now you're signed up on a plan. They're going to give you $600. So when people say that labor is their highest overhead, it's not. The actual adjusted production from their fee of $1,000 for a crown, and now they're doing it for $650 for Blue Cross or Blue Shield or United Concordia or whatever. Their number one overhead would be a 35% fee reduction. They don't have a marketing cost, and these people are probably going to give you 50 or 100 patients, so it's a volume discount. But then you got, your labor 25%, lab 10, supplies 5, whatever, and you just have to focus on your market. But they don't, so they'll sign up for this plan, and it's a PPO, and they usually charge $250 for a filling, and now they signed up for a plan that's $100. But they'll still do a tooth-colored composite and put on a rubber dam and pack cord and do all this bullshit. And then you tell them, you say, okay, look, amalgam. Look, how do these fillings fail? They fail from biology. They get eaten out by about 160 different species in your mouth. When I got out of school, I was told that Streptococcus mutans did all this. Now we know, 30 years later, that by the time you get 4 millimeters deep in a cavity, you can't even find Streptococcus mutans. And it's actually a different genre. It's yeast cells that are blocking out your body's defense, so that the strep is hiding behind the fungus from your body's white blood cell. But the bottom line is, an amalgam is half mercury. You'll never find mercury in Coca-Cola, bottled water, or in a multivitamin for kids. The other half is silver, zinc, copper, and tin. Silver diamine fluoride, tin, stannous fluoride. It's all antimicrobial, and it's as strong as metal. And they last 38 years, and the damn cartridge costs you $1, and you just took your $250 filling on a PPO, Medicaid, Medicare, whatever, and now you're doing it for $100. So obviously we're going to get rid of the rubber dam, the bonding agent. I mean, have you ever looked at a bottle of bonding agent? I mean, 50 milliliters, and it's like $200.
Right.
And somebody on Dental Town worked out the math that it's like twice as expensive as heroin, cocaine, or crack by the gram. And you cut your fee in half, and you're not going to do an amalgam that lasts 38 years. You're going to do this plastic composite that lasts 6.5 years. And if you think your composites last longer than your amalgams, just don't tell anyone, because when you don't talk, people don't know how crazy you are. And if you're going to believe, I mean, if you found a homeless guy behind the dumpster at KFC, and you pulled a white plastic fork out of a KFC super meal and then one from your kitchen sink and said, hey, homeless alcoholic crack man, which one of these forks do you think will last longer? The tooth-colored plastic one from KFC or the metal one from my mama's kitchen drawer? A crackhead would know the metal one lasts longer, but after 8 years of brainwashing, the dentist is the only one that would pick the white plastic KFC sport. But the bottom line is, they don't focus on their margin. And for 32 years, I'll be in every dental office you've seen. I've been in 1,000 of them, and I'll see a dentist walk out of a room. He just finished he says, hey, wait 1 second, I got to go do a hygiene check. So he goes and does the hygiene check and comes out and says, whoa. Okay, she's the hygienist, so obviously it's in room 1. You're all the same. How long's that hygienist been here? 5 years. Okay, what do you pay her? $40 an hour. Okay, she just did. Sorry, God, I hope I'm not getting Kyle, you think I'm getting the corona? And
no, that's just me. I have that effect on people.
I'll say you just did a cleaning. You just did an exam. Your hygienist just did a cleaning exam and bite weaning. She's worked here 5 years. Did you net $5.19 after taxes, or do you lose $12? They don't even freaking know.
Mm-hmm.
So they never know their numbers. And then when you say, okay, well, your fee for MOD composite was $250, and they always say it was Delta, but when you go look in there, they're signed up to like 6 or 9 different plans.
Right.
And then they don't realize that on all the other plans other than Delta that they signed up for, there's a clause that says if you sign up for our plan, we can sell your name. Other dental insurance or companies are using our list, and you'll be a provider for those. And if you want to stop using it, we need a written deal and 1 year's notice and all this stuff like that. So they were charging $250 for an MOD composite. They don't even know their cost. And now they just dropped their fee to like $125. I'm like, dude, at $250, if you had 50% overhead, now you're doing it for free. Now, do you really think you have 50% overhead? You nut job. You don't even know your overhead, but you know it ain't 50%. I mean, think about overhead. 4 dentists making $25,000 a year. When I got out of school in '87, the average dentist had 50% overhead, so they had to do $50,000 to make 25. And now the average, according to all the statistics I've seen, 65% is the average overhead. So now you got to do $71,500 to make $25,000.
Yeah.
And at least 20% of the practices have 80% overhead or more. So they got to do $125,000 of MOD composites to make $25,000. I mean, they're out of their mind. And oral surgeons are the funniest because if they just stick to just wisdom teeth and exodontia and just blood and guts, pulling teeth and doing biopsy, just be surgeons, they have 40% overhead. But once they start getting into implants and they build up this great big implant practice, their overhead's 65%.
Yeah, kills them.
Then, dude, what's wrong with the price of your implant? And if I was an oral surgeon, I'll tell you what I do. I go find a group of like 3 oral surgeons that only want to do implants, and then I go in there and do all the exodontia on a 40% or on a 50-50. Pick your overhead. I mean, if you just said, look, I'm just going to do the cleanup, boys. I'm just going to do exodontia, and if I did this in my own practice, I'd have 40% overhead. So pay me 60%, and let them do all the high overhead stuff. But the dentist, they don't know their numbers. And if you don't know your numbers and you're changing your price from $250 to $125, you just cut your fee in half. You don't even know what the hell your overhead is. I mean, they're crazy. And since almost none of them go bankrupt, I mean, in dentistry, the only way you're going to go bankrupt is if they take your license away. And the only time they take your license away, it's always because you did a criminal act. You got drugs, drinking, put a hidden camera in the bathroom, something really creepy. I mean, you virtually have no risk of going bankrupt. Whereas if you open up a mom and pop restaurant in Salt Lake City, oh my God, that would be a 40% bankruptcy failure rate the first year. In fact, I bet you the 2-year survival rate of a new mom and pop restaurant in Utah or Phoenix, where I am at, it's a 50% failure rate. And these dentists are afraid to open up their own practice. So if you're afraid of a 1% failure rate, then you need to seek help and say, I'm afraid I'm going to get caught. I've been shooting people in the park, or I got hidden cameras all over my bathrooms, or I'm currently right now on drugs. Go fix that, because you're not going to, it's so restricted. And I do not believe in the restrictions, but that's the way it is. I mean, I think the State Board of Dental Examiners, first of all, I got to come clean. I've been a registered libertarian my whole life, and so, I know we're coming up on an election where some people like the guy who robbed the bank, and the other people like the other party who drove the getaway car. I mean, I think they're both. I think that the two-party system for the last 150 years has just been on a highway of lying, cheating, stealing. But specifically, look at dentistry. Like, I'm across the street from the Guadalupe Indian Reservation. Is that the music to shut up?
No, that's just a warning. So that's not the shut up music. That's like the hey, soon we'll have to shut up, but not yet.
But what made America great was, basically 15,000 years of immigration from Indians over the Bering Strait, Polynesians that went to Hawaii and landed and became the Aztec, Mayas, and Incas, and 500 years. My family's 100% Irish. We did the 23andMe in the family tree, and we came here, I think, 1840 during the potato famine, which was like 50 years before Ellis Island. But the thing is, I'm across the street from Guadalupe Indian Reservation, and if some Mexican dentist graduates from dental school and moves up to Guadalupe, where they don't have one dentist that looks like me and you. They don't have one legal board certified or dentist with a license in the Arizona State Board Dental Examiner and starts opening up a dental office. I've watched it. But every 5 years, they catch some guy doing $20 fillings, a dentist from Mexico, speaks their native tongue, and what do? They call the police, they arrest him, they kidnap him, they put him in a cage, they deport him, and it's like, what the hell? So you're saying that no dentistry is better than dentistry from a licensed dentist like Howard? I mean that you got to be out of your mind. Number two, would that patient want to talk to Howard, who doesn't know a word, and it's not even Spanish, it's Yaqui Indian, it's all kinds of different languages. So you're saying that if a guy graduates from a school in Mexico, he can't come and work on people that don't speak English in Guadalupe where there's no dentist? They say absolutely not. And that is what every dentist needs to remember when they wonder why the average dentist and physician make well over $100,000 a year. It's not from free trade. It's not from freedom. In fact, even when they sign a free trade deal, if I said, hey, Tyler, you're in Utah, I'm in Arizona, we'll have free trade. You say, cool, man, thanks, and we'd have free trade. Why would there be a 5,000-word document that lawyers took 5 years to write? Because it's not free trade. So what they do is they name it the opposite of what it is. It's like advertising. When you look at advertising and it says 2 scoops of raisins in every box, well, you immediately know there must be no damn raisins in Raisin Bran. When an American car company says, hey, buy my car and it'll have an extended warranty for 100,000 miles, you immediately know, well, obviously, that car won't make it to 100,000 miles. You never see a Japanese car company saying, oh, yeah, we have a warranty. No, because Japan and Germany actually make a good damn car. So when you see whatever an American is saying, like on these campaign deals, whatever they're saying about the opponent is always their crime. And I think the crime for dentists is that they never read Paul Starr's Pulitzer Prize-winning book, The Rise of the American Healthcare System, where basically in 1990 the two-party system took over healthcare, and they broke it up and they set up 50 state boards, and those boards immediately closed down 90% of all the schools, all the doctors, everybody, and said they were quacks, and that was when U.S. healthcare was 1% of the GDP. So how did it rise to be 14% of GDP at 2000 and 19% of the GDP now at 2020? It was because the mob basically ran off all the competition. So dentists make so much money because if you don't do it their way, they'll arrest you and put you in a cage, and their way chokes out so much of the supply, because supply and demand equilibrium, I bet on a perfect supply and demand equilibrium, a filling wouldn't go for more than $100 by anybody, and you could get it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But with the use of state boards, with the use of arresting every dentist foreign trained, you have this opportunity. It's it's kind of like a huge disaster, but we benefit from it. And it happens all the time. I mean, my patients that have construction companies, and when I grew up in Kansas, I had some friends that were building Dad Sonic drive-ins, and whenever there was a tornado, they'd always say, yeah, that's so bad, but oh my God, is our phone ringing off the wall, because we're going to have to go fix all these broken things. So it's horrible when your toilet clogs up, but the plumbers love it. And I think the State Board of Dental Examiners, I just think it's a horrendously anti-American, Milton Friedman. I don't know how you could read Milton Friedman's Free to Choose and think there's to be a state board. And they'll always disguise it as quality. Oh, well, we're doing it to protect them. Oh, so they get zero dentistry because you're protecting them. Oh, gee, thanks. Why don't you take all my money to save me from getting rich? But that is the system, and you're not going to change any of these systems overnight. These systems just incrementally change a little bit with each generation. And but for right now, the bottom line is just get out there and work. Get out of school and work hard and hustle. And my gosh, just like I say, I'll say how I started this thing, and that is be positive, I want you to set a goal that says, I'm going to be as positive as Dr. Tyler Williams and have a great attitude, live below your means. If you need a BMW, you probably need a therapist. If you need a Mercedes-Benz to validate yourself, something went wrong in your childhood, and I don't know what it was, but maybe a therapist can help you. Live below your means. In fact, Tom Giacobbe is the editor of Dental Talent magazine. He had so much self-esteem, and he was so validated. And, he had his own dental office. He's married to Grace. He had 3 kids. And he drove his car. I mean, for the last 5 years, everybody's like, okay, Tom, if you don't buy a new car, I'm going to buy it for you. It's like, why? He goes, I bought that car in dental school. It was like $300, and it still works. So, you don't need a Range Rover if you have self-esteem, and remember, if you have one job, you're an entitled, lazy American. Most people who like to work have 3 jobs. I mean, I was a dentist. I was lecturing on the weekends. I was writing books, tape. I mean, I don't think I've ever had one job in my whole life. I didn't even have one job in dental school. So, and then you want mentors, and you're not going to find a mentor flying across the country that lives 3,000 miles away who you think loves you, but you got to remember, you just gave that guy $3,000. Most people, if you give them $3,000, they like you while you're standing in front of them. But you need to find a friend who likes you for free, who's across the street, your specialist. You need to find oral pathologist, oral radiologist, endo, perio, pedo. And if you got a friend and he becomes your mentor in all the other specialties, and then you go out there and if your wife says, hey, honey, Friday night, I don't want to cook. How about we go out to dinner? Say, hey, how about this? It'd be a lot cheaper to eat beanie weenies at home, but I agree it would be fun to go out for dinner. So if you find me, any doctor, chiropractor, pharmacist, anybody, I'll take you to the nicest steakhouse in town, and we'll go out for dinner. And I noticed one thing on that stuff, on those relationships. Say you and an oral surgeon, or say Tyler, you were an endodontist, and I was a general dentist, and you and me went to dinner. We might like each other. We might have something in common. Maybe not. But if our wives were just best friends, well, I know you're eating out of my hand. In fact, if you were the oral surgeon, I screwed up an implant, I didn't know what to do, and my wife called the oral surgeon's wife, she'd call him, and I mean, just so make relationships. When I say mentorship, I don't want you to have a mentorship on the other side of the ocean. I want you to have a mentorship with other dentists in your village, in your tribe, and network with those people. And you're a product of what you know and who you know. And if you just get out there and treat everybody like you want to be treated, work hard, hustle with a great attitude. If you can't get rich in this country by the time you're a grandpa, you're not trying.
Yeah, well, I think you're absolutely right. And, I think we miss that. We think social media is networking and it has its place, but, even physicians, pharmacists, like you said, sleep doctors, we network with a couple of sleep doctors around, because there's so many things that, there's such a disconnect, not just with dentistry, but with, a lot of healthcare professionals, where it's like, man, if we just know who these people are, then, like you said, if their son's got a toothache on Friday night, they're just going to call you on your cell phone and not have to go to Google and try 3,000 offices where they're all closed and nobody answers. So, but I think, everything you've gone through here has been fantastic, Howard. We really appreciate having you on it. Just a couple closing points that you mentioned, that we brought up. But, everyone that is listening should go figure out, what does it cost you to run your practice per day, per hour, per minute, what's your overhead, and all these things, because we moved into our new building, and that really opened up my eyes. When we moved here, we just redid those numbers, and it's like, oh, well, now we know how to make smart decisions. And I think that's where a lot of general dentists get into trouble with overhead, is they try to do too many things and cover all the bases. And a lot of the specialists smartened up on that years ago, where they said, hey, I'm going to just narrow to the things that I really like to do, that I can really be good at, knock those out of the park, and we can still, validate that from as general dentists, but also being available. You got to be available for emergencies and patients, and remember that case acceptance is a lot lower than you think, and also like half the population only goes to the dentist once a year. So there's a lot of people, even if you're in a neighborhood you think saturated, there's a lot of people who still aren't going to the dentist, and these aren't all just like homeless people or people in a bad economic situation. These are attorneys and doctors and business owners and other healthcare providers. They don't do it. So go out this week and take what Howard's shared with us here, and I know it'll help your practices. So Howard, I couldn't say thank you more. We could have gone for 3 hours here. I love your not just your candor, but you've got a great sense of humor and a real passion for dentistry. So thanks for all you do for the profession.
Thanks, man. It was an honor to be on your show, and thanks so much for anybody helping my homies is a friend of mine. And Tyler, you're helping my homies, and thanks for starting the Practice X Factor, and thanks for all you do for dentistry.
Absolutely. Well, we'll reconnect on Dental Town, and we'll do this again in the future. So this has been great. Thanks a lot.
All right, buddy. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks, everyone.